I've heard a lot of different senators and other folks on the Hill talk about specific numbers, but I'd like it to be infinite. I want as much as we can possibly accumulate. And the reality is, I've told many people this, and especially journalists, is they say, well, is there an exact number? Well, no, not really, because that's like saying, how much gold do you want as a country? Anything else with intrinsic stored value, you want as much as you can possibly accumulate, and that's no different with Bitcoin.
Since the announcement of the strategic Bitcoin reserve, a shift has swept through Washington. What was once a fringe financial movement has now become a centerpiece of U.S. policy, with powerful voices in the White House pushing for the accumulation of as much Bitcoin as humanly, or rather nationally, possible. Gone are the days of dismissing crypto as a passing phase. Today, officials are discussing trillion-dollar implications, executive orders, and legislative deadlines. The country isn't just dipping its toes into Bitcoin anymore. It's diving in head first.
The president has made it very clear that we're going to be the Bitcoin superpower of the globe. He's said that repeatedly.
Sounds great.
It does. It's amazing. And, David and I worked diligently with many others inside of the White House to craft what we thought was the best solution for the strategic Bitcoin reserve. And look, we wanted to recognize Bitcoin for being unique, because it is. It's a commodity, not a security. It has intrinsic stored value. It has the immaculate conception, as David likes to say. And, the way that we set this up, we recognized it for what it is, which is being unique. And then we also had the digital assets national stockpile, because really we wanted to encourage the innovation that's happening across other ecosystems in the space as well. But we wanted to harness Bitcoin for the American people. We view it as being in our long-term interest to hold on to this asset. We obviously have made it very clear that we want to acquire as much as we can get.
This initiative isn't just a headline. It reflects deep strategic planning among government insiders who are treating Bitcoin not just as a commodity, but as a cornerstone of future U.S. economic strength. The White House isn't viewing Bitcoin as a speculative asset anymore. It's recognizing it as a permanent part of America's digital infrastructure. And the goal is no secret: buy and hold and keep buying.
President Trump, he spoke at Bitcoin Nashville. He said he wanted to be the Bitcoin president. He wanted to create the Bitcoin superpower. He wanted to be the crypto capital. I mean, there's these really, really big, bold statements that I think people were surprised that him, of all people, but also just the president of the United States, would say. You've spent time with him, the administration, people in the cabinet. What do you think his views on Bitcoin are, right? Like he obviously has hired a lot of people around him who have expertise and interest, and you guys have been working really hard on this and made a lot of progress already. But him personally, has he said anything to you about Bitcoin, or are there specific things that you think are worth sharing?
What began as campaign trail rhetoric has become official White House doctrine. For Trump, Bitcoin isn't just a talking point. It's part of his legacy. And that legacy is being shaped not just by statements at conferences, but by legislative blueprints, economic planning, and the deployment of top advisors who live and breathe digital assets. This is the first administration actively identifying Bitcoin as a strategic national priority.
I would be viewing Bitcoin as gold. And how can you protect your own assets? How can you protect your value in the midst of other volatile markets? I think that's something that you should certainly be looking at investing into. The United States obviously has. We said that we don't want to sell any Bitcoin. We want to accumulate as much as we can get. I would follow our lead there. I think that we have the right mindset, and we've obviously prioritized this asset class. And
the analogy to gold is no accident. Bitcoin is being positioned as the new standard of long-term economic security, not just for governments, but for individuals. Americans are being subtly encouraged to mimic the federal strategy, holding Bitcoin as a buffer against future volatility. With that message coming straight from the top, the signal is clear. Bitcoin is no longer a gamble. It's a hedge.
We're looking at many creative ways, whether it be from tariffs, whether it be from something else. I mean, there's literally countless ways in which you can do this. And I'll defer to some of our members inside of the interagency working group to see what ideas they come up with inside of their own shops. But we'll look at everything. Everything's on the table, and like we've said, we want as much as we can get. So we're going to make sure that no stone is unturned as we start fleshing out some of these processes.
As for how the government plans to amass this vast reserve of digital gold, the options are being brainstormed daily. From revaluing underpriced gold assets to redirecting tariff revenue, no fiscal mechanism is off the table. The objective isn't just symbolic, it's about retooling the balance sheet of the most powerful country in the world to include Bitcoin.
So now that we have the tailwinds at our back, I think it's high time that they're recognized as well. And so, for us, I think that we have a very unique opportunity, especially given the actors that I've mentioned before and the way that things are set up on Capitol Hill, to make monumental changes as it relates to this space and really usher in the golden age for digital assets, as the president said repeatedly.
Momentum is clearly building. With key appointments made, regulations being overhauled, and legislative timetables in motion, digital assets are finally getting the government support their advocates have long demanded. The crypto winter that defined past years is melting under this administration's full-throttle support, and the term "golden age" is no longer aspirational, it's policy.
I think that the players that have developed frameworks outside of the United States will ultimately want to be participants here. And so I think that the regulatory clarity will allow them to integrate in the United States and start building more systems here. Moreover, I think that, we want to make sure that we're leading the globe just in terms of this technological innovation as it relates to digital assets.
The ambition doesn't stop at home. The administration is casting a wide net, positioning the U.S. not only as the largest Bitcoin holder, but also as the world's premier destination for blockchain innovation. Global developers are being invited to build on American soil, under American rules. The end game is simple: bring the talent in, keep the capital here, and lead the charge into a digital-first economy. What we've witnessed is more than just a shift in tone. It's a complete transformation of national strategy. Bitcoin is now deeply woven into the United States' financial vision, from executive orders and legislative frameworks to the ambitious idea of building a digital Fort Knox. Officials have made it clear, the United States doesn't just want some Bitcoin, it wants all it can get. And with the mechanisms already in motion, the acquisition has begun.
We've publicly said that we believe that Bitcoin is digital gold. And with the Strategic Bitcoin Reserve, we wanted to build a digital Fort Knox around that.
So where do you stand? Is this a masterstroke of economic foresight or the beginning of a risky new financial experiment? Let us know in the comments down below.